The stars had always been cold and empty. That was what humans believed for thousands of years. They looked up at the night sky and wondered if anyone else was out there. Then, 300 years ago, they found their answer. The Valari came in ships that glowed like moonlight. They were tall and thin, with silver blue skin that shimmered when light touched it. Their arms had 4 joints instead of 2, and their eyes were large and golden like twin suns. They were beautiful in a strange way, and they were crying. Captain Taiho remembered the old videos. His grandmother had shown them to him when he was just a boy. The Valari ambassador had stepped onto Earth soil and fallen to his knees. Tears rolled down his silver face, and where they touched the ground, they turned into tiny crystals. "We searched for so long," the ambassador had said. "We thought we were alone. But you are like us. You are our siblings." Scientists discovered something amazing. Humans and Valari shared genetic markers. Their DNA was similar in ways that should have been impossible. 2 species from different corners of the galaxy, yet connected by blood. The universe had given humanity a family among the stars. For 3 centuries, the alliance grew strong. Humans and Valari built colonies together. They shared technology and art and music. They celebrated each other's holidays. And slowly, carefully, something even more beautiful happened. Human and Valari couples fell in love. They had children together. The hybrid children were special. They had their human parents' warm skin touched with hints of silver blue. They had their Valari parents' graceful movements and their human parents' stubborn hearts. They were living proof that the 2 species were truly one family. Taiho stood on the bridge of his ship, the UN's Horizon. He was 42 years old, with broad shoulders and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. His crew respected him because he never asked them to do anything he would not do himself. He loved his ship. He loved his crew. But most of all, he loved his daughter, who lived on Colony 7 with her Valari mother. His communications officer, Yuna, was young and quick. She had joined his crew 2 years ago, and she had proven herself brave and smart. Right now, her face had gone pale. Her hands were shaking as she worked a console. "Captain," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I am receiving a distress signal from Colony 7. Taiho felt his heart stop. Colony 7 was home to 12,000 hybrid children. It was a peaceful place with schools and parks and families living quiet lives. His daughter was there. His little Nari, who had just turned 8 years old. "What kind of distress signal?" he asked. He tried to keep his voice calm, but his hands gripped the armrest of his chair until his knuckles turned white. Yuna looked up at him. There were tears in her eyes. "Abduction, sir. The Children's Education Center has been attacked." "By who? Pirates? Raiders?" Yuna shook her head slowly. "No, Captain. It is the Valari High Command. Their warships are in orbit around Colony 7. They are taking the children." The bridge went silent. Every officer stopped what they were doing. They stared at Yuna like she had spoken in a language they could not understand. "That is impossible," said Junho, the navigation officer. "The Valari are all eyes. They are our family." "I know what I'm seeing," Yuna replied. Her voice cracked. "Valari military ships. Valari soldiers on the ground. They are taking the hybrid children from the schools and the homes. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands." Taiho stood up slowly. His mind was racing. This could not be happening. The Valari had called humanity their siblings for 300 years. They had wept with joy when they found Earth. They had shared everything with humans. Why would they betray them now? But then he thought of his daughter. His Nari, with her mother's golden eyes and her father's stubborn smile. If the Valari were taking hybrid children, they were taking her too. "Set a course for Colony 7. he commanded. His voice was steady now, cold as the space between stars. Maximum speed. Sir, Junho said carefully. Valari warships outgun us 3-1. If we go there alone, I am not asking for a battle plan, Taiho interrupted. I am telling you to take me to my daughter. Now. The bridge crew looked at each other. They knew their captain. They knew that nothing in the universe would stop him from reaching his child. One by one, they turned back to their stations. Course set, Junho announced. We will arrive in 6 hours. Taiho nodded. He walked to the main view screen and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, his daughter was scared. Somewhere out there, the people he had trusted for his entire life were hunting children. He thought about his grandmother's stories. She had always said that humans were stubborn creatures. They never gave up. They never stopped. When someone threatened their families, they became something dangerous. Yuna, he said quietly, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what is happening. Tell them the Valari have broken the alliance. Yes, sir. What else should I say? Taiho turned to look at her. His eyes were hard as iron. Tell them we are coming for our children, and nothing will stop us. Leon's horizon jumped to faster than light speed, leaving a trail of light behind it like a shooting star. Across the galaxy, other human ships received the same distress signal. Other captains made the same choice. The hunt had begun, and the Valari would soon learn why you should never threaten a human's child. Earth had not seen panic like this in 100 years. The news spread across every screen, every radio, every communication device on the planet. The Valari, humanity's beloved siblings, had taken their children. Admiral Jizu stood before the emergency assembly of Earth's United Nations Space Command. She was 63 years old, with silver hair cut short and a face that showed every year of her service. She had fought in 3 wars. She had lost friends and comrades, but she had never felt anger like this burning in her chest. The assembly hall was filled with representatives from every nation on Earth. Some of them were crying. Some of them were shouting. All of them were afraid. Please, Jisu said, raising her hand. Please, be quiet. I need to tell you what we know. Slowly, the room fell silent. Every eye turned to the old admiral. 48 hours ago, Jisu began, the Valari High Command executed coordinated attacks across 17 of our colonies. They specifically targeted locations with large populations of hybrid children, schools, nurseries, family homes. She paused. The words felt like poison in her mouth. 4,216 children are now in Valari custody. Some of them are babies. Some of them are teenagers. All of them are scared and alone. The room erupted again. Representatives shouted questions. Some demanded war. Some begged for diplomacy. The noise was deafening. Director Minho of Intelligence stood up. He was a thin man with glasses and a calm face, but his hands were shaking. Admiral, this makes no sense. We have been allies with the Valari for 300 years. They called us their siblings. They celebrated when our species merged. Why would they do this? Jisu pressed a button on her console. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed genetic charts, medical reports, and population statistics. Because we are siblings, she said grimly. And that is exactly the problem. She pointed to a section of the display. 20 years ago, a disease appeared in Valari space. They call it the Crimson Plague. It attacks their immune system. Their bodies cannot fight it. There is no cure. The room went quiet again. In 20 years, Jisu continued, the Valari population has dropped by 40%. They are dying. Their species is facing extinction. Yunji, the youngest member of the council, leaned forward in her seat. She was only 30 years old, but she had earned her place through hard work and intelligence. What does this have to do with our children? Everything. Jisoo changed the display. Now it showed the genetic makeup of a hybrid child. Our children carry something special. When human DNA and Valari DNA combine, the result is a new kind of immune system. Hybrid children are completely immune to the Crimson Plague. Understanding began to dawn on the faces around the room. It was an ugly understanding. They want to use our children, Yoonji said slowly. They want to harvest them. Use them as medicine. Worse, Jisoo replied. Our intelligence reports suggest they plan to breed them. They want to create a population of hybrid children that they can use as living immunity donors. Forever. Minho stood up so fast his chair fell backward. They want to turn our children into slaves? Into livestock? Yes. The word hung in the air like a death sentence. For a long moment, no one spoke. The horror was too great for words. These were children born from love between humans and Valari. They had been celebrated as symbols of unity. And now the Valari wanted to breed them like animals. Finally, a representative from the Asian coalition stood up. Her name was Bora, and she had 3 grandchildren living on Colony 7. Her voice was steady, but tears ran down her cheeks. What are our options? Jisoo straightened her spine. The Galactic Council has requested that we pursue diplomatic solutions. The Valari are a founding member of the Council. They have allies. They have power. And if we ignore the Council, then we will be alone. No species will help us. We will face the Valari and their allies by ourselves. Mora nodded slowly. And what do you recommend, Admiral? Jisoo looked around the room. She looked at the crying faces. She looked at the angry faces. She looked at the faces of parents and grandparents who had just learned that everything they loved was in danger. I recommend we go get our children, she said simply. Right now. By force, Minho stepped forward. His calm mask had cracked. Underneath it was fury. The Valari fleet is larger than ours. Their technology is equal to ours. How do we win? Jisoo smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a wolf showing its teeth. Director Minho, do you know what makes humans different from every other species in this galaxy? Tell me. We are persistence hunters. Our ancestors used to chase their prey across entire continents. They did not stop when they got tired. They did not stop when they got hurt. They kept going until the hunt was over. She turned to address the entire assembly. The Valari have forgotten this about us. They think we are soft because we love peace. They think we are weak because we choose kindness. She slammed her hand on the podium. They are about to remember what happens when you threaten a human's child. We do not stop. We do not rest. We do not forgive. We hunt you to the end of the universe if we have to. The assembly rose to their feet. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was going to war for its children, and heaven help anyone who stood in their way. The Valari had made a terrible mistake. They had studied humans for 300 years. They knew about human art and music and poetry. They knew about human love and kindness and compassion. But they had forgotten the other side of humanity. The dark side. The hunting side. Lieutenant Commander Haniel led the first strike team into Valari space. He was 35 years old, with a scar running down his left cheek from a battle he had fought 10 years ago. His squad was made of 12 soldiers, each one a volunteer. Each one had a child or a sibling or a nephew among the missing. Their ship was small and fast. It slipped past Valari patrol lines like a shadow moving through darkness. Their target was a detention facility on the third moon of Valari Prime. Intelligence said 200 hybrid children were being held there. 2 minutes to landing, announced Sujin, Haniel's second in command. She was a small woman with quick hands and quicker reflexes. She had lost her son in the raids. He was only 6 years old. "Everyone check your weapons," Haniel ordered. "Remember the mission. We go in, we get the children, we get out. We do not stop for anything." The soldiers checked their plasma rifles. They checked their grenades. They checked their knives. They were ready. The ship touched down on the moon's surface with barely a sound. The facility stood before them, a massive structure of white metal and glowing blue lights. Beautiful, in the cold way that Valari architecture always was. "Breach team, go," Haniel commanded. Do-hyun moved first. He was the biggest man on the squad, with arms like tree trunks. He placed an explosive charge on the facility door and stepped back. The explosion tore through the metal like paper. They were inside. Valari guards appeared immediately. They were tall and graceful, moving with the fluid speed their species was known for. Their weapons fired beams of hot plasma that could cut through steel. Mireille took a hit to her shoulder. The plasma burned through her armor and into her flesh. She screamed once, then gritted her teeth and kept moving forward. "Contact on all levels," Sujin shouted. "They know we are here." "Then we move faster," Haniel replied. He shot 2 guards in quick succession. Their silver-blue bodies crumpled to the floor. "Lower levels." "The children are in the lower levels." The squad fought their way down through the facility. Every hallway brought more guards. Every room brought more danger. Haniel watched his people fall one by one. Do-hyun took a plasma bolt to his leg. The bone shattered. He dragged himself forward on his elbows, still firing his weapon. A young soldier named Sung-ho was hit in the chest. He was dead before he hit the ground. Haniel did not have time to mourn. He could mourn later. Now, there was only the mission. "Level 7, Sujin called out. "The children are on level 7. They reached the elevator shaft. It was locked. Haniel placed his hand on the control panel and fired 3 shots into it. The doors slid open. Inside, they found stairs leading down. The squad descended, bleeding and burning, but never stopping. The Valari guards began to fall back. Haniel could see the confusion on their faces. They had expected humans to retreat when they suffered casualties. They had expected humans to negotiate when they were outnumbered. Instead, these humans kept coming. Even the wounded ones. Even the dying ones. Why did they not stop? One guard asked his commander. Haniel heard the question. He smiled grimly and answered, "Because those are our children down there, and we will walk through fire to reach them." Level 7 opened into a large room. The walls were white and cold. In the center of the room, behind a barrier of energy, were the children. 200 of them. Hybrid children with silver-touched skin and frightened eyes. Some were crying. Some were holding each other. Some just stared at nothing, too scared to move. Haniel felt his heart break and his fury grow at the same time. Sujin, disable the barrier. Everyone else, cover the exits. Sujin ran to the control panel. Her fingers flew across the controls. Behind them, more guards were coming. Myra stood at the door, her burned shoulder hanging useless, firing her weapon with one hand. "The barrier is down," Sujin announced. The children looked up. They saw the human soldiers covered in blood and burns. They saw the weapons and the wounds. And then a little boy stepped forward. He had his mother's human eyes and his father's silver-blue skin. "Are you here to save us?" he whispered. Haniel knelt before him. His voice was gentle despite the battle raging around them. "Yes, we are here to save you. And we are never going to stop." The boy's eyes filled with tears. They said no one would come. They said our human parents would not fight for us. They were wrong. Haniel stood and lifted the boy into his arms. They will always be wrong about that. The squad gathered the children. Some soldiers carried 2 or 3 at a time. Do-hyun, his leg destroyed, sat against a wall and provided cover fire while the evacuation happened. Go, he told Haniel. Get them out. I will hold them here. We do not leave anyone behind, Haniel started to say. Do-hyun smiled. Blood ran down his face. You are not leaving me behind. You are giving me a purpose. Now go save those children. Haniel nodded. There was nothing else to say. He led his squad and 200 children out of the facility and onto the ship. Behind them, they heard Do-hyun's weapon firing until they could not hear it anymore. The ship lifted off and jumped to safety. Across the galaxy, similar operations were happening. Strike teams hitting facilities. Parents fighting for their children. Humans refusing to give up. The Valari were beginning to understand their mistake. They had awakened something ancient and terrible in humanity. And now the hunt would not stop until every last child was home. Hyun had been a war journalist for 30 years. She had seen terrible things. She had recorded battles and bombings and the worst moments of human history. But nothing had prepared her for this. She stood on the surface of a rescued colony, her camera drone floating beside her. Behind her, human soldiers were carrying children out of a Valari transport ship. The children were crying. Some of them were reaching for their rescuers with desperate hands. The broadcast was live. Every inhabited world in the galaxy was watching. This is Hyun reporting from Colony 12, she said into her microphone. What you are seeing behind me is not a movie. It is not a simulation. This is real. Human soldiers are rescuing hybrid children from Valari captivity. She walked toward the rescue operation. A young soldier stumbled past her, carrying a toddler in each arm. The soldier was barely 20 years old. She had tears streaming down her face, but she did not stop moving. 3 weeks ago, Hyun continued, the Valari, our allies, our siblings, executed coordinated attacks across 17 human colonies. They kidnapped over 4,000 children, babies, toddlers, teenagers, children born from love between humans and Valari. She paused to let her camera capture the scene. A father had just found his daughter among the rescued. He fell to his knees and held her so tight it looked like he would never let go. The Galactic Council has demanded that humanity stand down. They have called for diplomatic resolution. They have reminded us that the Valari are a founding member species with important allies. Hyung's voice grew hard. We reminded them that our children are not bargaining chips. The feed cut to a new location. Captain Taiho stood on the bridge of the UNS Horizon. His ship had been damaged in 3 separate battles. Burn marks scarred the walls behind him. His uniform was torn and stained with blood that might have been his own. I am Captain Taiho of the UNS Horizon, he said directly into the camera. 12 days ago, I received word that my daughter had been taken from Colony 7. She is 8 years old. Her name is Nari. She likes to draw pictures of spaceships and dream about being an explorer. He paused. His jaw tightened. I have not slept more than 2 hours at a time since this began. I have lost 6 crew members. My ship has been hit by Valari weapons 4 times. And I have not stopped searching for 1 single second. Behind him, his crew worked their stations. They were exhausted. They were wounded. But their hands were steady. To the Valari High Command, Taiho continued, I have a message. This is not a war. This is not a conflict between nations or species. This is a parent coming for their children. And there is no force in this universe, no council, no fleet, no empire, that can stop a parent protecting their child. The broadcast cut to another location. Admiral Jizu stood before a wall of screens showing rescue operations happening across the galaxy. Red dots marked facilities still holding children. Green dots marked successful rescues. There were more green dots every hour. So far, Jisu announced, we have rescued 2,400 children. We have lost 112 soldiers. Every single one of those soldiers knew the risks. Every single one of them volunteered, because that is what humans do when family is in danger. She looked directly into the camera. To the other species of the Galactic Council, I want you to understand something. Humanity chose peace. We chose kindness. We built colonies and schools and hospitals. We shared our art and our music and our love. We were good neighbors, good allies, good friends. Her voice dropped lower. But when you take our children, that ends. When you hunt our babies like animals, we remember what we really are. We are the species that walked across continents. We are the species that survived ice ages and plagues and disasters. We are the species that never ever gives up. The broadcast showed a montage of images. Human soldiers breaching Valari facilities. Parents reuniting with children. Ships jumping through space toward the next target. Hyung reappeared on screen. She was standing near a medical tent where rescued children were being treated. Doctors and nurses worked around the clock. Volunteers from every human colony had come to help. The galaxy is watching, Hyung said. They are watching a species that was called peaceful show its teeth. They are watching mothers and fathers fight through fire to save their sons and daughters. I think they are finally understanding what humanity really means. She walked toward a group of rescued children. One of them, a little girl with silver-touched skin, was drawing on a piece of paper. She looked up at Hyung with eyes that had seen too much fear for someone so young. What are you drawing? Hyung asked gently. The girl held up her paper. It showed a picture of a human soldier carrying a child. Around them were stars and explosions. But the soldier was smiling. I am drawing the people who saved me, the girl said. My human grandmother said they would come. She said humans always protect their family. Hyung smiled through her tears. Your grandmother was right. The broadcast ended with one final image. The Un's horizon and 17 other human ships jumping toward the Valari homeworld. Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched. Some were inspired. Some were afraid. All of them understood one thing clearly. Humanity would not stop until every last child was home. And the Valari were running out of places to hide. The Valari homeworld burned. Not with fire, but with the glow of 100 human ships entering its atmosphere. The great military stations that had protected this world for 1,000 years lay in ruins. The fleet that was supposed to be invincible had been broken. High Matriarch Seraphim stood in the remains of her command center. She was ancient by Valari standards, over 400 years old. Her silver-blue skin had faded to pale gray. Her golden eyes were dim with age and sorrow. Around her, the bodies of her finest warriors covered the floor. She had not believed humans could do this. She had studied them for 3 centuries. She had seen their kindness, their art, their love of peace. She had thought they would negotiate. She had thought they would accept losses and seek compromise. She had been terribly wrong. Admiral Jisu walked toward her through the rubble. The old human woman was limping. Her left arm was in a sling. Cuts and burns marked her face. But her eyes were cold and clear. Behind her came Hanyul, Yuna, Taiho, and 100 human soldiers. They looked like ghosts, exhausted, wounded, covered in the dust of a dozen battles. But they stood straight. They had not stopped fighting for 5 weeks. My matriarch, Jisu said. Her voice was calm. The war is over. Seraphine looked at the human admiral. You have destroyed us. Are you satisfied? No. Jisoo shook her head. I am not satisfied. I am tired. I am heartbroken. I have lost soldiers who were like children to me. I have watched families torn apart and put back together. Satisfaction is not what I feel. Then what do you want? I want my children back. All of them. 3,842 have been recovered. 374 are still missing. Where are they? Seraphine closed her eyes. They are in a facility on our fourth moon. They are alive. We did not harm them. Taiho stepped forward. His face was hard. You did not harm them? You kidnapped them from their beds. You took them from their parents. You planned to breed them like animals. Do not tell me you did not harm them. Seraphine opened her eyes. Something like shame passed across her ancient face. You do not understand. The Crimson Plague is killing our species. In 2 generations, the Valari will be extinct. We had no choice. Haniel laughed bitterly. He was holding a picture in his hand, a drawing made by one of the rescued children. No choice? Did you try asking for help? You would not have helped us. We are siblings, Jisoo shouted. It was the first time anyone had heard her raise her voice. That is what you told us. For 300 years you called us family. And family helps each other. Seraphine looked confused. We could not ask you to sacrifice your children. Then do not steal them either. Jisoo took a deep breath. She controlled herself. High Matriarch, if you had come to us honestly, we would have found a solution together. Our scientists would have worked with yours. Volunteers would have stepped forward. We would have moved heaven and earth to save you. Because that is what family does. There was a long silence. The weight of what could have been hung in the air like smoke. Then, from behind the soldiers, a small figure stepped forward. It was a boy about 10 years old, with human features touched by silver blue. His name was Jiho. He was one of the rescued children, brought here to reunite with his Valari grandmother who lived in the capital. But his grandmother was dead. She had died from the plague months ago. Jiho walked past the soldiers. He walked past Jisoo. He walked right up to High Matriarch Seraphine and looked up at her. My mother was Valari, he said quietly. She died from the sickness when I was 7. Before she died, she told me something about humans. Seraphine looked down at the small boy. Her ancient eyes were wet with tears that had not yet fallen. What did she tell you? She said humans have a word for what family does when family is hurting. She said the word was simple but powerful. Jiho reached up and took Seraphine's hand. The word is help. You just needed to ask. Seraphine's tears finally fell. They crystallized into tiny gems as they hit the ground, just as her species' tears always did. She knelt slowly until she was at eye level with the boy. I am sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry for what we did to you. To all of you. Jiho nodded. His young face was serious. My mother also told me that humans forgive. Not because people deserve it, but because holding on to anger hurts too much. He looked back at Jisoo and the soldiers behind him. She said that is what makes humans special. They can be angry and still choose love. The soldiers looked at each other. They thought of everything they had lost. The friends who died. The wounds that would never fully heal. The nightmares that would haunt them forever. Then they thought of the children they had saved. The children who would grow up because of their sacrifice. Jisoo stepped forward. Her face was unreadable. High Matriarch, the Valari have committed terrible crimes against humanity. By rights, we could destroy your species completely. We have the power. We have the reason. She paused. But we are going to do something else instead. We are going to save you. Seraphine looked up in shock. What? You have a plague. We have hybrid children with immunity. Instead of stealing them, we will work together. Our scientists and yours. Volunteers and researchers. We will find a cure. We will save your people. After everything we did to you? Jisoo nodded. Yes, because that is what siblings do. They forgive. They help. They love even when it is hard. Around the ruined command center, soldiers lowered their weapons. Valari survivors emerged from hiding. For the first time in 5 weeks, no one was fighting. Little Jiho still held Seraphine's hand. He smiled at her, a bright smile that carried no hatred. See? He said. You just needed to ask. 100 years later, the Crimson Plague was cured. Human and Valari scientists had worked together to develop a treatment that saved billions of lives. The hybrid children, once hunted, became honored as the bridge between two species learning to be true family. And across the galaxy, every species remembered the lesson humanity had taught them. They protect their children, always, no matter the cost. But when the battle is over, they choose love. That is what makes them human. The end.